Spider-Man 2 has been out for a little while now, and a lot of people are finally getting their hands on it. They're getting to see the game, they're getting to experience it for themselves, they're getting to truly dive deep into the gameplay and the story, and truly sink their teeth into everything Spider-Man 2 has to offer. However, I myself am a bit worried. Now, keep in mind, I haven't played the game, so I am missing some key details. But I've seen a lot of gameplay, I've seen a lot of playthroughs, I've seen quite a bit of the game already. And I'm a bit worried about the future.
You okay? I'm working on it!
One thing I've noticed, especially with the gameplay of Spider-Man 2, is that it's kind of the same. Now, don't get me wrong, that's not a big problem. And I think that's fine, especially, the whole rule, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if nothing changes, I fear that Spider-Man 3 might be the last installment of the whole Spider-Man franchise until we get rebooted again, obviously, because Spider-Man seems to get rebooted every few years. But I think not enough people are talking about this. Spider-Man, especially Spider-Man 2, kind of is the exact same as playing the original Spider-Man. There's very little that changed, or at least there's so little that changed that it's not that big of a deal. It didn't feel like that big upgrade. I've been seeing a lot of people saying it feels like this is just Spider-Man 1.5, and I kind of agree. Now, it didn't seem like they made that many changes that I was expecting. I don't know if it's just me, but when a sequel comes around, I expect quite a few changes. I don't expect the whole game to be different, but I expect it to be substantial. And it felt like they improved what they had, but didn't really change much. And maybe that's just me, but it's kind of worrying. Especially if this happens a third time, I think we might be in for another Assassin's Creed, another Arkham, another God of War problem. With a lot of these franchises, even though a lot of them were good for their time, one thing that happened to all of them is that they kind of got boring. People got tired of playing the exact same game over and over again with small minor changes that didn't really matter. And again, it worked for the time. And Spider-Man worked for the time. When Spider-Man came out, the original PS4, it had that new game smell. It was nice. It was like, let's go. I haven't played something like this. But there's the problem. Now that you've played Spider-Man PS4 and Spider-Man Miles Morales, and now Spider-Man 2, what I find that is happening is that you've already played this game twice. This is your third go around, so the new game smell isn't as impressive as it once was. And that's kind of worrying me because if Spider-Man 3 comes out and they don't make some substantial changes, we might be looking at an exact same issue that all these other games faced of Spider-Man getting stale. As I said, Spider-Man PS4 had that new game smell. Not to mention the best Peter Parker. I don't care what you say, that guy, that's not Peter Parker. I don't know who this guy is, alright? I don't know who this Ken looking ass dude is, but he ain't Peter Parker. He ain't my Peter Parker, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. PS4 Peter Parker for the win, baby. But I digress. All this to say, I'm worried. Now, I don't think it would be that big of a deal if Spider-Man 2 showed me some massive changes, but that's the problem that I'm having and I'm kind of fearing for the franchise, is that when I see Spider-Man 2, I don't feel like it's that big of an upgrade. I feel like this is more DLC than an actual sequel. Now, if we're talking story, that's a whole different thing. Obviously, a new story would be a good reason to make a sequel. But the problem is, if there's no interesting new gameplay, I'm not sure how interesting a Spider-Man 3 would be, let alone a Spider-Man 4 or a spin-off of like some other Spider-Man characters. I'm like, Again, we've already had this game 3 times now with Spider-Man 2. How many times can you play this game until it gets stale?
Miles! One and only.
Since I'm on the topic of Spider-Man 2, the reception for Spider-Man 2 seems to be very mixed from a lot of stuff that I've seen. Spider-Man 2 seems to be not only a return to form, but also kind of seems to be repeating a lot of the same issues it had in the first game. And that's kind of concerning. Again, you'd expect some major changes, but Spider-Man 2 doubled down on having a massive open world, and that's great. Everyone loves a big world, but if you have a big world and nothing to do in it, it's a bit worrying. Like, from what I'm seeing, it's looking like they did the exact same stuff they did in the first game, which is basically just Assassin's Creed at this point, and we all know how that went. And if you don't know, basically, it got stale very quickly. Having a big open world and like having the bare minimum of things to do, sure, there's always interesting side quests. I'm not arguing that, but what I am arguing is that this type of gameplay can get very stale very quickly if they don't change up massively. Think of God of War. God of War had 4 main installments, never mind the PSP games. Because if we're including the PSP games, that's at least 6. So 6 games of God of War, specifically talking about the Greek era of God of War, of that type of gameplay, that got old for a lot of people very fast. And I love God of War. I'm a massive God of War stan. I will preach the gospel of God of War from the hilltops, all right? I love the Greek era. I love the Norse era, all right? Anyone telling you that this game series is not a masterpiece is lying. I'm a bit biased, okay? Very biased, because I love the Greek era. That was my whole childhood, and I'm loving the Norse era. That is my adulthood at this point, and I'm loving it. But my point stands that got stale. And now we're 3 installments down for the Spider-Man franchise, and I'm worried that that's going to get stale too, especially if they're not making major innovations. Because it just seems like they're giving us more, but they're not innovating. They're not changing up the formula in interesting ways. Don't get me wrong. From what I'm seeing with Spider-Man 2, they have amazing cutscenes, best to ever do it. But a boring world, bugs everywhere? Not to mention they brought back the Mary Jane missions. Oh my god, can you guys move on from this point? I'm sorry, this Mary Jane is so boring. I did not like her in the first game. I found her annoying. Like how Peter Parker will save her all the time and she'd always be mad at him. I did not find her fun to play. Not to mention her missions, along with Miles' missions, was so boring. And they brought her back. You took something that was boring and just made it mid? That is not interesting. I'm sorry. I don't care about her. Can you stop involving her? Can you move on from this thing of having Mary Jane be interesting? She's not. Let's move on. She's a side character for a reason. Can you move on from that? Oh my god.
We good? We're good.
Also, another thing that I'm very worried about, and this pertains to future sequels, is this Spider-Man game was involved in a lot of controversies. From them making all of the characters ugly as hell except Miles. I think Miles is the only character in that game that I think looks decent. Why? Like why? Seriously, why are all of them ugly? Oh my god. And look, I'm sorry, but it's a basic thing that most people know. People like to play as beautiful people. It's a fantasy. People just like playing as good-looking characters. So why do you feel the need to make these people ugly as sin across the board? All of them. Oh my god, look at them. Just look at them. Yo! The lizard guy looks like an actual lizard. Oh my god, dude. Why? I don't know why this is a thing. And on top of that, they're getting involved in controversies they don't need to get involved in. Like some of the controversies I don't understand and feel a bit insensitive on Insomniac's part, especially when it came to them messing with the Latin language. That was a big controversy that was so unnecessary for Spider-Man. That's just something that should never have happened. To those that want to know, Spider-Man made some major changes to the Latin language that have been receiving major controversies for a while now. They're trying to go with a bit more of a modernist look on the Latin language, but the problem with this is that it is very controversial. A lot of the Latin community does not approve of these changes, nor do they want them, They seem to be enforced by a lot of Americans, and a lot of Americans putting their politics into the game, which is not something that people want. And it's an unnecessary controversy to be involved in. Like, why are you doing this? You seem to be diving into things that don't involve Spider-Man. And politics, especially, is something that you should never involve yourself in because no one's winning, regardless of what side you play or what side you pander to or what side you're on. No one wins. Playing that whole game is never, and I mean never, good. So if Spider-Man 2 is willing to get involved in so many controversies, and especially political controversies, that is so detrimental, especially for future storytelling. It is so detrimental because the game can become very formulaic and very boring very quickly, especially once you start pandering. And if you start pandering, it gets so dull so quickly. Spider-Man shouldn't be involved in that stuff. That's not why people play Spider-Man. These are simple things that should not be a problem, so why are they a problem? It just seems like this shouldn't be, so why is it a thing? I'm scared for the future of this franchise. I'm scared for the prospects of them incorporating politics because politics always end horribly. The MCU, Star Wars, for just a few examples, have all gone down the tank. And I, for one, do not want that to happen to Spider-Man. So please, don't involve yourself in politics. I don't care which side you're on. It's never worth it. And I feel like all of these problems are compounding on each other a bit, and I'm a bit worried about this franchise.
I have sand everywhere.
Now, this whole conversation isn't to say that Spider-Man 2 is good or bad. As I said, I haven't really played it. It's getting very mixed reviews, so I'm not too sure myself on the game itself. However, I am seeing things that are worrisome, that could be very problematic in the future. Again, not to say the game is bad, just to say that I'm seeing problems that could become major problems in the future if they don't get sorted out now. The best time to fix problems is with a sequel. You take the feedback from the fan base and you make it work. Take your time. I don't need to see Spider-Man for a while. I think Spider-Man 2 is a good enough sequel. From what I've seen already, as I said, I haven't played it, but I've basically seen everything. The sequel seems solid. It doesn't seem amazing. It just seems, yeah, it's a good sequel, and that's good enough for now. But a third game kind of solidifies a lot of things. Only time will tell which way they go, but it doesn't negate the fact that I am a worried player. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you for watching the video. Please subscribe, like, share the video. I would really appreciate all of that. It would mean the world to me. And I just want to say thank you for listening. Whether you agree or disagree with me, I'm so grateful for you to get this far into the video. Seriously, thank you. I really do appreciate it. This is one of my first times doing this sort of thing, so I'm a bit nervous, but I'm kind of excited. But I just wanted to get this off my chest. I had quite a bit to say. I have other things I would like to mention, but I feel this encompasses most of the points that I'm making. So again, thank you and have a great day.